Welcome back to the Girl Power Lines podcast. I'm your host, Molly Trotter Gomez. We are in for such a treat. Julianne Kirkland. Gosh, this woman is incredible. And typically when I introduce people on podcasts, I was just sharing with her, I love them for introducing themselves. But I was like, your bio is just so good, so meaty, short, sweet, to the point. And I think it's just going to really set up this incredible conversation today. And we're going to be diving in on the topic of resilience. And what was funny is that's what stood out to me when I was digging into all the different things that she could talk about. And then she comes on here being like, well, the Lord highlighted something very similar in the same vein. I'm like, won't he do it? So I just have to share that because that is just how incredible our God is. But Julianne Kirkland, she is a wife and a mom of 6. Oh my gosh, mom of 6. 2-time international best-selling author, TEDx speaker, Awake Conference and Next Level Faith founder, March of Dimes ambassador, former mastery trainer for Tony Robbins, director of Fit Press, and a life coach for high-achieving business professionals. Now, Julianne uses her expertise as an overcomer strategist to help turn life's stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Love that. Through her signature Arise formula framework, Julianne has helped many around the world discover that creating a joyful life they love doesn't have to be hard. Oh, there's so many things just even in that bio, Julianne, that I'm like, we could just tear apart. That is so incredible. But welcome to the show. We are super excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And I did want to let everybody know that this is not my typical voice. I was just telling Molly that I'm a summer swim coach. And so I am so very competitive. And I just am, by the side of the edge of the pool, just screaming at the top of my lungs. And then this is my voice in the whole month of June. It's fine.
I love it. Well, I mean, would we want a coach that does anything less? If you're a quiet coach, then you should probably not be in the industry.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Julianne, we're so excited to have you here. Is there anything else you want to add in just to who you are, what you want to share today? And let's dive into this topic of resilience, because I know this is definitely a topic that you are not a stranger to. And I feel like it's so timely. And obviously God put that on your heart as well to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one of the things in my bio, I speak on many stages. And when people read that bio and then I get out on stage and I say, well, I have to clarify something, right? Yes, I have 6 kids. And in that I have a set of quadruplets, which is, 4 at one time. And then I have to pause and give people a second with that, because if I just fly right over it, you can see them trying to calculate and make sense in their heads. So yes, it's 4 babies at one time. And what that journey in and of itself has taught me through everything in entrepreneurship, everything in my relationship with the Lord has been so much about resilience and expansion and the capacity that we hold. And what God put on my heart today to really speak to y'all about, which resonates so much with resilience. And I was like, Lord, what do you want for them? What message do you want to use me to bring to them? And it was, would you continue to show up how you've been showing up, right? Because we're ambitious, we're driven, we're passionate, we're kingdom expanders, right? And we show up when we're sick, when we don't have a voice, we show up, right? When our kids have fevers, we just continue to show up. And the question that he posted me is, would you continue to show up how you do if you were truly surrendered to the outcome? Because I know many of y'all right now are going through things and you're just pressing on. You're just continuing to go strong because you're like, I know what A, B, and C together are going to equal D, right? That's the motion. That's what the world has painted this picture of. We sell the outcome. We go into coaching programs. We go into all these different things because the outcome has been sold to us. And God says, surrender the outcome. And so that was the question that he posed into my heart today to now pose to you is, would you continue to show up the way that you do if the outcome was truly surrendered? He told Abraham to go. Would you just go? And I think so much of resilience is really surrender, because when we're truly surrendered to the outcome, we can just lean into him and allow him to truly be our strength and not have to say, wait. No, I got to this, and this, and make it work out. We can truly lean into who he is and how he operates.
That is so powerful. And what's even we were talking about just how big our God is, how amazing he is, that he put something similar in both of our hearts. that topic of just surrendering the outcome of what you said has been something that has been said recently by many different experts that have come and spoken into the community, by our CEO and founder of, Lord, I'm going to do the work and trust you with the results. Here's the outcome that we want, but we have to put in the action steps, right? There's a lot of praying, hoping, wishing, wanting, but ultimately God is in control. And one of the most powerful phrases, and I don't know if you have one, this might spark something for you. I heard this phrase one time of quit asking why and start asking what. Quit asking why and start asking what. And that hit me so hard because it's like when you think of why, it's kind of like a whiny sound.
Yeah.
And I was like, I probably do that all the time. And then I was like, I'm tired of listening to my own groaning, right? But then what? And then the Lord can highlight things to you. So I don't know if there was if anything resonates with you or a phrase that maybe kind of.
Of course it does, Molly, because that's how Jesus works. Of course
Right?
It does. One of the things that my next book is going to be focused on is it's very similar to Simon Sinek's All About the Why, right? Like that was his big thing. That was his book. That was his TED Talk that like sent him on this huge trajectory. And yet it's really about, you said the what, and I say the who, right? Because we can't understand our why. We can't understand our what until we understand the who of which we are serving and what we're doing, who we are, who our identity is in Christ. If that is at all misshapen or perverted in any way, we will not be able to truly understand our why. We will not be able to live into the fullness of our capacity, of our potential, of our calling, until we truly understand who we are and who we serve.
I love that. Well, let's talk about the identity piece for a second, because I feel like a lot of people get stuck there and then they try to skip over that part and go to other things and find answers somewhere else, when it always goes back to the root of where you find your identity. Why do you think people struggle with that so hard?
It has so much to do with this outside validation that we all seek, and we can sit here and, I'm an identity coach, and like, this is something that I work with people on very intimately. And it is something that God is still working in and through me with, because we do from when we're little, right? Oh, you put your shoes away. Good job, right? You do what you're supposed to do. Good job. That we teaching our kids, right? And it's bad. I'm not saying don't praise your kids for putting their shoes away when you tell them to put their shoes away. My kids still don't. So if you have hot tips on that, please send them my way. But it's so much of this validation that we seek from other people, because it feels good. It feels good to be validated. It feels good to know that what we're doing is making a difference, right? And God posted me a long time ago. It's like, but are you okay with who you and I are right now without anybody else's opinion involved? And that's hard to sit with. That's really hard to sit with. And what he has done with me over and over again is, as I continue to grow and as I continue to expand, right? Each new level, it's like veils fall off, right? These scales fall off, and we're able to see and experience him in a new way. And as that continues to happen, I always kind of find my role models, the people that are speaking the same language, the people that are on the same kind of dimensional playing field, right? All of those things. And I find myself getting drawn in. And I'm not saying it's bad. What I'm saying is, are you aware that it's happening? And are you aware enough to say, if I surrender that all, am I still okay with just me and you, Lord? And a lot of people don't want to do that because it's uncomfortable. And he will bring out the stuff that we've been pushing down for a very, very long time.
That is I love that you brought that up, because there was a time I don't even know, I feel like for majority of my life, honestly, probably to my early 30s. And I'm in my mid 30s now, where I just always was searching, maybe late 20s. Anyways, I digress. I'm like trying to backtrack here. I would always search for other people's voices, and I would seek things from other people of like, either I knew they had a stronger relationship with the Lord, or they have a lot of wisdom, and I like that, I'm going to take that. And it was all secondhand stuff, rather than getting it from the who, right? The source, the Lord, our Father. Like, Lord, show me, because he wants us we draw near to him, he'll draw near to us, right? Like there's that principle, that biblical principle, but that's so powerful. You have to be aware when you're doing that. And it took me, decade and a half when I really started diving into personal development of like, oh, wait, what am I doing that actually gets me nowhere? And there's a reason for that, because God's like, yes, I want to draw you in. I want to draw you in. Was there, speaking of that, was there like a specific instance where you caught yourself of like, oh, wait a second, I'm doing this, then you had a moment where you pivoted or shifted?
Every year. Again, every year as I continue to grow. But one of the things, so my original book came out and it was called The Water Walker, because God presented that chapter to me. And I was like, yes, Lord, like teaching people how to walk on water, right? I'm air quoting if you're not watching and I was like, okay, that's going to be in the name of the book. And like my editor was like, I mean, that's not really keyword searchable and, algorithms and all this stuff. And I was like, no, this is what it's going to be. Right. And so like, I was really adamant on it. I was really adamant on having, my face be on the book. And it came out, international bestseller, all these categories. It was wonderful. And then I was doing a podcast and we were talking about elements of the book. And I told this story about my dad that I had never told anybody before. I lost my dad 6 years ago to Alzheimer's when he was just 63. And, that rocked my world. Of course it did. And so when I was discussing this on this podcast, I said, every morning my dad would fling open the door to my room, flick on my light and start like obnoxiously loudly singing, rise and shine and give God the glory, glory. Right. And then he would like dadify it. And he'd be like, God told Julie, it's time to go to schooly wooly. Right. And he would just add all these different verses in. And as much as I hated it, waking up that way, and I would like bury my head in, I never would stop him until at least he got his second verse in, because deep down, I truly loved it. And what I didn't realize then that I realized when I'm in this conversation during the podcast was that my dad seeded this belief of arise and shine in me. That like, no matter what, it gets me emotional every time, no matter what you're going through, you will arise and you will shine. And you're not shining because you did it. You're not shining because it's something that you have to boast about, right? You're shining because you are reflecting the glory and the brilliance of the Lord in your life. And having that discussion in the podcast with him and realizing like, oh my gosh, I got to pull my book off the shelf and I've got to add this story back in. And I retitled it to Arise and Shine. I took my face off of it and I'm like, this is, again, I kind of perverted what the intent of the book was supposed to be because of what I thought it should be. And so that whole process was so powerful for me. And my very first conference at Awake that I was hosting, and I'm getting up on stage, I'm telling the story. And I said, I don't believe that was my dad's intention to like seed me with this, mantra of arise and shine. But I do believe that he is in heaven and God is pulling back the veil and allowing him to see the harvest of that seed he planted so long ago. And so again, it goes back to this like resilience thing that we are all going through, because there's going to be moments of your life where you're like, Lord, all I'm doing is seeding. Where is my harvest? And I know as entrepreneurs, we want to experience that harvest. We want to see it this side of heaven. And yet, for many, there might be the other side of heaven, that God's going to pull back that veil and allow you to see the impact you had for his kingdom that you weren't even aware of. And so that's so much to do with resilience and surrendering the outcome. Because if you're truly surrendered, like, girl, you got nothing to worry about. He is working all things for your good, and it might not feel good at the moment, but that doesn't mean it's not working.
That is beautiful. What a powerful story, a powerful memory, first of all, that you have of your father doing that for you. Literally, it sounds like every day. And then to see how that's seeded. and to have that powerful memory, but just to know what that has done and the ripple effect of that story and how it's been able to shift others, obviously being a best-selling book. And I'm sure it was continuing to be a bestseller, even when you took it off the shelf, put the story in, changed the title. So often it's almost like when we post it or we launch it or we have the thing, there's a finality to, I can't change it. Otherwise I'm going to look like X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about the Lord is that, are you going to, even if, yes, this may be it for right now, what if I call you to something different? What if we need to pivot? What if we need to shift? Like, he just wants to know, when he gives you something, are you going to be obedient and give him your yes, even if it makes you look whatever that may look like. Right. And so I love that. I love that story, because it's, you know, you could have had all the thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Pulling this book off. But you knew that you knew, because you were focused on the who. Right. You're focused on who gave you this dream, who gave you this opportunity, who gave you this vision. And you put that in there. And I mean, gosh, I mean, how did it feel like when you put it back out there, new title, new cover, the story that's in there? Like, what was that feeling for you now that you're launching this same book, but a second time?
Yeah. Well, it went to international bestseller again,
I figured.
Which is great, because like the very first time, right, I had like my people getting the book and everything, right? And I didn't have that the second time, but that, like, it's just God saying, I got you. Like, why do we worry so much? You know, it really is. And I don't want to make lighthearted of our worries, because I know the feeling, but it truly is a waste of our time. And as a mom of 6, I don't got time to waste time, you know, and neither do any of y'all. We're on mission. We are on mission. And I say it all the time. You know, I love being with like missioned people versus like-minded people, because I think being in an atmosphere with different mindsets, different perspectives, different histories, different stories brought to the table, that's expansive, right? And so when we are like, oh, we're with like-minded people, I'm like, not for me. But you put me in the room with the same mission people on mission to expand the kingdom, people on mission to create greater impact in this world, people on mission to improve themselves and those around you. Yep. Put me with those people all day long.
You know what, Julianne? I may have to snag that. I was like, I have never heard that before. That is a great line, because there are you hear that all the time in the entrepreneur world, like-minded, like mission. Like, then you get it refined and scale down even more of like, who's on that same mission? Because you can have a lot of people that love personal development or love tacos or love the color purple, but like, I mean, that's so broad, that's so big. Yeah. So that is so intentional. I love that. I definitely just wrote that down. Yeah. And I'm here. I'm here with you. I'm with you on that. Like, that is exactly what I want, because I mean, I'm sure we can both tell stories to make this 3 hours long of how many groups or how many missions were we on where we weren't really with like-minded or like missioned people. And it was training grounds or maybe learning lessons. And God's like, oh, you know, I'll recorrect you, or you need this right now to learn X, Y, and Z. But it's all part of that process of, I know personally, I've gone through so many personal pivots where from news anchor and reporter, I thought that was going to be forever, until he was like, nope, next, training ground. Then went into opening my own nutrition and fitness business. Also getting into network marketing. That was cute, but next we're going to move into something else. And then bigger network marketing. Nope. Now we're going to move to digital marketing. Now we're going to open a company that no one's ever even heard of before, meaning personal and professional development and network marketing combined to really be a discipleship platform with God at the center. And I'm like, Lord, you just have these little pivots and stops and all these things. Yeah. And of course, that's all the Reader's Digest version. But every time, was it painful? Was it like, okay, Lord, like really another thing? But when you get to look back and be like, wow, this is where I learned that. I wouldn't have had this without this experience. Even though this was only X amount of months or X amount of years shorter, and I didn't even achieve what I wanted to, it was ultimately God had me there to get this so I can move on to the next. Absolutely. And even with the company we have now, I tell people like, I plan on this being my forever, but if God pivoted me to somewhere else, Lord, this is your dream to begin with. I'm just stewarding what's right in front of me for whatever happens next. And it's tough in those moments, but it's don't forget to reflect and look back on what all of this, like your accumulation. Somebody told me, so beautifully put, you're the mosaic of all your choices leading up until now.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
just like a mosaic, like all like a stained glass window of all these different colored pieces, broken pieces, but it's put together to look so beautiful. And so often we look at the broken pieces rather than the bigger picture. And it's like, please look at the bigger picture because God has so much more for you.
That's right. And we hear all the time, I'm broken. Okay, great. You know, like, okay, now we can get to work.
Yeah.
You know, and so absolutely being broken, it's where it starts, my friend. You know, it's okay. Surrender to that. And as you're saying, it's a mosaic. All of those broken pieces come together, and that's where the light shines through. Right. And, you know, when I was with Tony and Dean and working in that atmosphere, I thought, this is my Esther moment. Like, right. I mean, Tony Robbins is like the king of entrepreneur and personal development space. I'm like, I'm going to get to sit before the king. And right. I was like, oh, thank you so much for my Esther moment. And I would go into these breakout rooms afterwards and I would hear people say how much they worshiped him. And I was like, that feels gross. Lord, why do you have me here? I thought this was my Esther moment. And here I am building the golden calf. Like, what am I doing? And he said, it is your Esther moment, but it's the preparation room.
Ooh.
And that's what resilience is all about, right? We have to go through the preparation room. And if you think about the story of Esther, most people don't go back to that part of everything that she went through in the preparation room, right? I mean, she was to be used. And so all of the mental, the physical things that she had to go through to be able to even get before the king, right? And that's what we want to like glance over that part. And we're like, oh, for such a time as this. And we just like go straight to that outcome that we want so bad. We're like, remember what she had to endure, what she had to be resilient through. And she just hung on to God. You called me to it. God, you called me to it. God, you called me to it the whole time. And then the favor came with the king, right? And so that is what I hope you are all holding on to right now, is that no matter what it is that you're working towards, whatever that outcome is that God has put on your heart, I believe that he has given you that vision. Some of you have seen it in your mind's eye. You have a very clear picture, and keep working towards that. And at the same time, listen, follow the who, not the why, not the what, but the who. And you will not ever be forsaken or abandoned. You will achieve everything that he desires for you to achieve, because there will be nobody that can stand in your way.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. That is just such a perfect spot for an ending. So I'm like, I could rabbit trail on several different things that we just talked about, and we'll definitely have to have you back because there's so much wisdom that just pours out of you. And I love that you brought, and I'll just bring it back for a second to the Esther moment, because we focus on the outcome because we want that so bad that is just the only focus. But that preparation that builds that resilience to be used by God, that is an entirely different person altogether that is there for the process over the outcome. The outcome will be great, and we do want that, but don't miss out on the person you become and the person that Esther had to become in order to get to that outcome and get to that promise, to have that phrase that we all love to use for such a time as this. There was so much that is inside of that. And so you have just incredible wisdom and stories to just be able to share from your 6 kids, 4 of those being quadruplets, to, you know, being raw and real about helping build the golden calf and realizing like, hey, you know what, maybe, and God said this is a training ground, but having that realization, because so many people just even get sucked into that of like the prestige and the look at this, look at me. And I just know that this is such a season right now. And we see it inside of our organization of God just raising up new voices, new leaders with such a surrendered and sensitive heart to his voice.
Yes.
So they can really be a vessel for him because the world needs it. Like it's kind of switching out the old, ushering in the new, and that new has to be so surrendered. So in that process of surrender, back to resilience, like there's going to be so much testing and preparation, because he wants to know you have free will. He wants to know, and it's up to you. So gosh, Julianne, this has been incredible. As we wrap up today, is there anything else that you'd love to leave us with?
Just one of the things that I love to talk about at my conferences is being in the lamplight, right? The Lord is a lamp unto our feet. And again, when we are so driven and passionate about the things that are to come, and we get excited, I get very excited about all the things that are to come. We have the county swim championships this weekend, and I'm already like, how are we going to celebrate? Right? Like I get very excited, and the Lord is so gracious and just sweet to remind me to stay in the lamplight. You know, we want that beam of light that just shines the whole pathway and tells us who's going to come against us, what stumbling blocks we're going to have, right? All of these things. And he's like, I'm a lamp unto your feet. And so I would just inspire and motivate all of you to just focus on the lamplight. What does he have for you right here, right now, with no one else in the lamplight?
Beautiful. Julianne, thank you so much for just taking your time, blessing us with your wisdom, just being raw real like you are. I absolutely love it. That when we first got on that call, I was like, you have to come on the podcast. Like you're too real. And we're just like the same on mission type of people. Yeah. And this is exactly why we have this podcast. So people can come on this show. They can listen to people like you and get that feeling of just keep going, keep pushing. You're not alone. And as long as you focus on the who, love that you said that, you are always going to be in good standing and you're going to be able to follow that light. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.